Hi, welcome back. So today I want to go over what is FIRPTA. I want to talk about A.C.R.I.S. You probably recall me mentioning it before. I want to define what is discount point and proration. So this is the end of chapter 4, which is awesome. And then we're going to move into chapter 5 in the next video. So let's begin. So FIRPTA stands for Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act. That's what the FIRPTA stands for. And what it is it's a tax on a foreign investor. We have many clients, again, we're in New York City, in Manhattan. So you have a lot of foreign investors that purchase property, so there's no tax. So they can purchase the property, there's no tax they have to worry about. It's only when they decide to sell the property that they have to worry about a 15% being withheld from the sale price after they've paid the commissions and all the different closing costs. 15% will be deducted from the check that's going to the seller. So let's say the seller was going to get a check for $1 million. So instead of $1 million, so it was going to come back to them after they've paid the commissions, the closing costs, everything else. So 15% of $1 million comes to $150,000. So $150,000 would go straight to the IRS, and then your client, the seller, would only receive the $850,000 check. And again, the key thing is that this is based off of capital gains. So foreign investors are subject to the same capital gains tax that we are. So in other words, if you are single, and later on we're going to elaborate a little bit more when we get to like chapters 16, 17, and 18. So capital gains is, as a single person, if I sell property, I can receive $250,000 without paying taxes. Married couples would receive $500,000. So this 15% tax, foreign investment in real property tax, is on that 15% after, let's say the foreign investor is married, they would get $500,000 out of that $1 million, and then it will be 15% from the $500,000. Because remember, if they're married, each person gets $250,000. Of course, both names have to be on the title and deed, but they sell the property. Let's assume both their names are on the title and deed. They would only have to pay 15% on the $500,000, not the $1 million. Because remember, they're getting a check for $1 million. They're exempt through capital gains. They're exempt $500,000. So the 15% penalty for selling the property, which is the FIRPTA, would only apply to the $500,000. So it'd be the only part that's getting taxed. 15% of $500,000 is $75,000. So $75,000 will go directly to the IRS. So there's $75,000 out of that $1 million check. So $75,000 on the million. So they would still receive a check for $925,000 because $500,000 is already exempt, and then they're only subject to this FIRPTA for the other $500,000. So they would only pay $75,000, and that money would go directly to the IRS. So that's FIRPTA. And again, they only have to worry about this tax when they're selling. Now let's talk about A.C.R.I.S. So in some of my earlier videos, I talked about how if you are looking to contact the owner, find out who owns a particular property. And remember when we talked about constructive notice and actual notice, and I was saying that when you sell a property, it's important to have it recorded. You want to have it recorded because of the fact that you want to make sure that you're being protected, right? You want to make sure that you're not being scammed and by somebody who really doesn't own the property and they're trying to sell you this property. So for your protection, especially in New York City, you're going to have lawyers involved. They're going to make sure that it's recorded. When it's recorded with the county, there's a City of New York system called A.C.R.I.S. So A.C.R.I.S, which stands for Automated City Register Information System. That's A.C.R.I.S. And that system, you're able to search records dating all the way back to 1966. You're able to compute transfer taxes, because a lot of times, especially in Manhattan, you're worried about the transfer taxes, right? Because we have state transfer taxes, we have city transfer taxes, and then if the property is over $1 million, you're gonna have what we call a mansion tax or luxury tax. So a lot of times you may want to kind of compute those numbers as a seller, sometimes as a buyer as well, just to know what you're getting yourself into as far as to be prepared for writing checks for those taxes. So you're able to go on to A.C.R.I.S, again, which is a NewYorkCity.gov website. It's an official website, and it has the records for the 5 boroughs. I'm not sure though if it has Long Island, but I know it has the 5 boroughs dating back to 1966. And then another thing is, if you're looking for a property, you can search it by lot and block number. So if you guys can recall, when we talked about the legal descriptions for a property, we said monuments, we said lot and block, and we also said meets and bounds. Okay, you guys can recall. In the earlier video, we talked about protection for homeowners when they're getting a loan. So now I want to go over some definitions concerning a loan, like discount points, for example. So if you see discount points on your exam, you know that is in reference to 1% of the loan amount. So here's the difference. In the real estate industry, if I have a client and that client signs a leasing agreement, exclusive right to sell for $1 million, but I sell that property for 1.2, I will receive a commission check off of the 1.2, off the sold price. Well, the person who's purchasing that 1.2 property, let's say they put 80% down. So basically, they're not taking out a loan for 1.2. So that's the reason why discount point has to deal with the loan amount. So anytime in mortgages, the mortgage broker, everything has to deal with just what's being borrowed. Unlike us, we get paid off of the final price, right? So that's the reason why I'm in real estate, not in mortgages. So as you can see, there's more money because of the fact that we're getting compensated based off the sale price, the sold price. Okay. Then also in your exam, if you see something like standard point, just know that that's also the same thing. So it could be called a point, which is 1% of the loan amount, standard point, discount point. You probably are familiar with someone having a saying that they are buying down a loan. So basically, buying down a loan would be someone who wants to try to make their mortgage payment cheaper. And one of the ways in order for them to do that is to pay the fee that's associated with the mortgage lender or broker or whoever. The fees associated with the loan, you could pay those up front, which will give you a much lower monthly payment because of the fact that it's not being incorporated into the loan, spread out, let's say over 30 years, and now you got the compound interest for those of you that remember that in school. So it comes out to be a lot more. So there's a term where you can buy points. So now you know each point is 1%. So let's say a mortgage broker is charging you 2 points on the loan. Let's say the loan is $1 million. So 1% of $1 million is $10,000. They're charging you 2 points on the loan. That's $20,000. So you have a choice to pay that $20,000 up front, or it could be incorporated in the loan. Obviously, it's much cheaper for you to pay it up front as opposed to having it spread out and dealing with the compound interest. The last thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to finish chapter 4, woohoo, is proration. So proration, again, dealing with closing costs again, has to do with the division of expenses and income between the buyer and seller. So closing costs, whether you're a buyer or a seller, both will have to pay. Now, typically the seller would pay both commissions. That would come because the seller is going to meet with the listing agent or the seller's agent. They're going to discuss how much to sell the property for. Those commissions are going to go for, it's going to be split typically 50-50 between the buyer's agent and seller's agent. And if you guys want to learn more about that, I'll leave a link for you guys to go over that. But Proration is a separation. So earlier we talked about the transfer tax, right? So you have state transfer tax, you have city transfer tax. In New York City, because everybody has an attorney that's involved, the buyer has an attorney, the seller has an attorney. So part of the closing costs is that the buyer has the attorney fee, the seller has an attorney fee. If the buyer is borrowing from a bank and not paying all cash, the lender can also have an attorney. So you could be, as the buyer, part of your closing costs could be not only your attorney, but your lender fees. Of course, you know, typically they'll have you pay for the appraisal. So there's a lot of closing costs that's associated. So proration is the division of the income and expenses between the buyer and seller. So thank you guys for joining me again. We finished chapter 4. Next time I see you, we will begin chapter 5. Thanks again for coming to our channel. We look forward to continuing to help you and guide you through your real estate book. We are currently doing a New York real estate sales book, but later on we will follow with California sales book, Florida sales book, as well as New Jersey sales book. So look forward to those videos. One of the other things that we want to also discuss in the channel is investment, because most real estate professionals out there, they never get to learn about investment at their firm. So we want to talk about foreclosures, what type of properties you should buy. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video so that you'll be notified when we drop those videos. We're trying to drop at least a minimum of 3 videos per week, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Thank you.